wave we're going to miss in the crypto space. But I also, it's like people have already started to talk about like, hey man, like Bitcoin 2's on the horizon, or like Ethereum 3. And you just keep looking at it and you're just like, so what happens to mine like when the new one comes out in a month and nobody wants this one? Oh snap, we haven't thought about that. Oh
Yeah. It's like you got the dollar, you got the yen, you got the euro, you got the pound, you got the peso, and then like, oh no, wait, well, I don't like the peso anymore. I'm gonna make another peso. I'm gonna make another dollar. I'm gonna make. So it's like, how do you keep track of all of it?
You will, and you won't talk, and that's what you talk to people in the crypto space, and they're the first ones to say like, hey, you know, this technology is not going to work, or this technology is too good and too crazy and extreme for people, and it just is going to continue to be a consistent evolution of which one are we using at the moment, which one is cool. So it's kind of like the Christmas present. You know, each year there's a new Christmas toy that kind of takes everybody's attention. And then the next year there's a new Christmas toy. And it's like, okay, so I sold a Furby doll or for whatever doll for $1,000 last year that now you can get for $27. And I think that's how, because it is so tech forward, I think that's how the crypto space is going to be, because the people who are utilizing it right now are so against the norm that once people start thinking that like this is the norm, this is going to like take that as an insult and start moving on to the next thing.
Okay, like all right, so like they're rebels, but get on Clubhouse so we can. I think I pinged you.
Oh, there you go.
All right, perfect. So I know we got Alex in.
I'm in.
How did we do it last time? Did I have my okay? Perfect. Because now you're in. I can put my headphones back on.
Turn me up in headphones.
Okay. So yeah, let's get it started. So for context, welcome everybody. This is Smart Ass Jocks, our weekly show where we talk about current news from the athlete's perspective. We run down 4 to 5 stories and then provide insight. So we do that for like 15 minutes. And then if anyone wants to come up, provide their own context, provide their own insights, we do that. We have a lot of cool people in the room. Full transparency, myself, I'm Amobi Okugo, a frugal athlete, and Jedediah Collins, fullback of finance, founder of Your Money Vehicle, former NFL veteran, CFP, financial educator. We do this every Wednesday.
You always blow me up way more. Like you're like, my name's Moby. We're good. But Jed, dude, this guy's got a recipe. No, man, you've been doing. You were just talking about you going back to your 13th.
No, I wish. No, season 11, season 12. Yeah, so.
Oh, I wish I get 13, 11, or 12.
But all right, let's get to it though. We do 5 to 6 stories. We're going to start off. Chandler Parsons just recently sued Morgan Stanley for a $5 million claim. The famous Chase Carlson. Chase Carlson is a great guy, someone that he essentially kind of cross-checks and audits your financial advisor. Usually when you hear a story about an athlete, getting into a situation with the financial advisor, Chase is behind it, so
he's not too far off.
Yeah, he's a great guy. But essentially, this is what happened. Chandler Parsons, former NBA player, famous for his time with the Rockets and the Memphis Grizzlies. Unfortunately, had a couple injuries. Got into a situation with the advisor, and it didn't work out so well. So he's suing him, filing a claim for $5 million. And let's start off, Jed. What you got?
I think this is just another one of those stories where we're going to look at it and go back and say, how did it happen? How did we get here? And again, you and I, Frugal Athlete Money Vehicle, being founded in education, we're going to look at it and say, this is a lack of transparency, a lack of knowledge, and a lack of understanding what the agreement was. So the first thing you got to understand is the relationship with this Morgan Stanley advisor. He was a broker dealer. He sold products, which meant he was able to make a commission and make money off of the recommendations. Beyond that, he was always looking for, and he had a tenured career, still has one, but he was always looking for little nuances and niches to continue to benefit off of his clients' money. And I thought that was an interesting revelation in throughout the articles. This is not his first criticism. This is not, his first complaint. He's got 5 or 6 throughout his career, and they all had to do with titling, with transfers without proper authorization, and little areas where he didn't think an educated client would be able to find a problem. This one being straight upon power of attorney. Can my broker make trades, send money, do transactions without my say-so? And I think that's been the biggest issue in some of the athletes' lives is they give up that power of attorney, give up that right. And this is one of those horrible stories where it's come full circle in a negative way.
No, you're exactly right. So for context, let's break it down. How can I say? So his Chandler Parsons, although Cohen is not named as a respondent in the complaint, he is listed under the records because his customer's broker is under FINRA rules. As you said, Cohen joined Morgan Stanley in 2015 from Wells Fargo Advisors. He did not comment on the article that we found for this situation. But Cohen, along with his father, Mark, another advisor, they managed $656 million in client assets with the minimum account size of $1 million. And this is all according to Forbes. And what's funny, you said, Jed, is that Mark is ranked number 56 on Best Advisors of California.
Mm-hmm.
We talk a lot of times about, how can an athlete let this happen? How can an athlete, fall under the situation of unfortunate financial fraud? But, you mentioned that Cohen was a broker. You mentioned, power of attorney. You mentioned fiduciary. How can I say, cross-check? Not everyone is, how can we vet? Not everyone knows about Chase Carlson or, other individuals that audit your financial advisors. But you look at the list, number 56 out of how many financial advisors there are, you're thinking, okay, he works with previous athletes before. It's all working out. And then you come to the situation. So what are some ways that we can kind of hopefully avoid it?
And this is where you talk a lot about due diligence. And so it's going to be number one, understanding what that relationship is. Having a broker, again, he's going to be looking at other ways to make money. Whether it's making those transfers, whether it's loaning some of the funds outside, which was illegal and he's had complaints about, or this idea that he continued to recommend a liquidity line, an access. It's a secondary loan that because more money is now, he's able to charge me for more. So simply understanding and questioning, how do you make money? Are you going to be looking for new alternative revenue streams on top of me as your client? I would begin with that question. And that is one that I tell NFL players, Amazonians, high school students. If somebody is going to talk to you about money, the first question out of your mouth needs to be, how do you make money? That is one of those essentials. Then you mentioned that term fiduciary, which I love, and I love to not only say because it's a fun word to say, but repeat. Fiduciary means they have that legal liability. I think this has to become a standard, especially in the professional athletic realm, that we must have fiduciaries, not broker-dealers, not a suitability standard, but a fiduciary standard held as an athlete. Because we are still illiterate, because we do not know how to vet out to the nth degree. But we are coming up to a place and a time in the financial industry space where there are companies, Chase Carlson type areas, that will sit down and show you and give you that invoiced out, itemized intention around who made money, how they made money, and where they made money. And I think at the end of the day, that needs to become part of our annual review of that relationship. How would you recommend somebody who is starting out in this space to run their own kind of due diligence?
Right off the back, you got brokercheck I think it's .com or .org. You mentioned earlier there's 5. I don't want to say outstanding cases, but 5 instances where Cohen was under the microscope. With former players, former athletes. So that raises some red flags. Obviously, do your due diligence. If 1 or 2 people say something about you, okay, maybe you let it pass. But if it's 4 or 5, then it's okay. Maybe something's for real. With that being said, I think, and this is something that Andrew Hawkins had told me, former NFL player, business guy. As athletes, we're in the results-oriented business. So when we're done with our seasons, our coach sits us down, our GM sits us down, and basically gives us, what we did well, what we didn't do well, and based on that, we either get a bonus, get a extension, or we get cut, or we get traded. I think as athletes, we have to have that same mindset when it comes to working with our financial advisors. Obviously, it's a little bit different, but at the same time, it's like, all right, I gave you this amount of money to handle. What went right, what didn't go right, and ask questions based on that. And if you don't like what you saw from a results standpoint, obviously you have to take into account other external factors. But I think as athletes, that's a great way to simplify it and move forward from that standpoint.
And I think again, the general understanding and knowledge of money continues to rise. You look at even the 401k space. There are countries and now companies starting to require in your investments, what did the funds make? And that transparency, sitting down with your advisor, is paramount. So that, I think, is going to become. You can look at their past. I think that's an excellent resource, BrokerCheck, looking at the past complaints, past restrictions that they've had, but also just having that transparent conversation of, show me where show me the money. Show me the money. Walk me through where and how you made money off of me. I have no problem paying for value. That is the other thing we have to understand as athletes. The cheapest person is not the best. If somebody says, I'll do the job for less than the man or woman down the street, they're looking at an angle. You need to understand that angle, that target is on your back.
No, that's a great point. So let's move on to the next topic. Alex Morgan, Sue Bird, and company started Together X. Obviously, this month is Women's Month, and we wanted to highlight that story. Their big mantra was that there wasn't enough stories being told from the woman athlete perspective, so they decided to create their own. So would love to bring any insights. And before that, let's take a moment to talk about or reset the room if we have any new guests. At the end of this, we're going to let people come in and provide the insights. We talk about 3 to 5 different stories, provide our insights, and then let everyone come onto the room. Full transparency, the first 15 or so minutes is live on our restream, which will be on our YouTube and podcast platform. So Jed, provide any insight that you have, and then we can let the room open up.
I think this is a conversation long overdue, and they throw out the statistics. 40% of high school and college, 40% of professional players are female, and they get 4% of the coverage. That statistic to me was absolutely mind-blowing. But you look very clearly, they are going beyond, hey, we want more views, hey, we want more eyeballs. They are looking to create the community, create the movement. And I love the intention around the marketing of it, because you and I know how powerful the name is and how powerful it is to get out in the public eye. Together, to get her. That is spelled out in the titling of the name. And then they put in the X, replacing it with the E. And I thought this was the most clever piece, because it elevates it from a profit-centric kind of idea to a mission, to we are out to change and do something. Because they describe this idea of binary, men, women, boys, girls, 0, 1. And X is now inclusive, and we are beyond the binary. It should just be sports coverage the stories are telling, and the audience is there. So I think this is one of those massive movements that's going to do nothing but continue to catch wind. You have some very high hitters on the female side coming out and saying, we need this, and we're willing to participate and tell and share the stories of the young women who are facing the exact same challenges as every young man out there playing sports and really learning from it. I don't know how you took it, and this is going to be one that can be interpreted 1,000 ways.
No, I personally love it. Not only the fact that, it's a woman-led company, but the fact that it's multiple women across different sports coming together. We've seen a lot of athletes start their own media companies, but for them to come together and provide a platform, it fits their mantra together, the name. And I think what's interesting, and I don't want to, be disrespectful. I named Alex Morgan, Sue Bird, but also Simone Manuel and Chloe Kim. They're the co-founders. I think it's great to see that you have former talent from the Players Tribune. I'm not sure. I don't want to, make a presumption, but I think all these athletes are connected with Wasserman, which is really cool to see too. Them coming together and stepping out. Wasserman providing another angle for athletes to do something. And then in terms of what to expect from together, I guess the main modes of storytelling will be visuals and photo projects, and moving forward will be podcasts. I think it's great being able to control their own narrative, and I'm excited to see what they got cooking up.
And I think as people dive into those docu-series, as we see the behind the scenes, they're going to continue to see the level playing field of sport. And I've always loved the beauty of sports saying, we don't care. We don't care who you are, where you're from, what it is. Come out on the field, and we just respect the hustle. And I think this is going to spotlight the idea that women hustle just as much as any boy or man out there, and they just haven't gotten the due credit. So this is going to be a great platform. And again, the marketing of it, as you mentioned, cross sports, cross industries, and then just the naming has been excellent so far. We'll continue to go forward.
That's what it's all about. So if anyone would like to come up, I know, Mark, you had something to say earlier. That's it from the story standpoint. Today was a light week. Usually we'll have like 4 to 5, but
we'll say one last story. I want to get your opinion on it, Moby, as we open up the floor. I think this is going to transition from the Together story. The rise of youth sports costs across the country has become one of these elements throughout the pandemic that we're really not paying a lot of attention to. As you look at lower economic areas, $100, $500, $1,000 fees for not just monthly dues, but the equipment, the training, the travel in youth sports today has become exponential. And it all began 12 years ago through the 2008 crisis, where the government stopped funding as many parks and recreation. But we look at the essential skills. Those ones together are going to spotlight from the female perspective around grit, around friendship, around confidence and networking, and ultimately around skills to progress in your career. I'd be curious what your thoughts are on, especially looking at soccer. I look at football, the club training atmospheres to elevate. And you see the gap widening between the haves and the have-nots. How will we address this going forward? And do you ultimately see an area in a space where I know nonprofits that are, every kid sports, things like that, trying to fill this gap in the void, but do you ultimately see it being a corporate sponsorship or possibly even an NIL type agreement in the high school atmosphere to raise these kinds of funds?
That's a great point. I think, specifically speaking from the soccer standpoint, when I grew up compared to how it is now, it's a completely different ballgame. I do see the corporate sponsor element where you'll have corporate sponsors from, existing communities invest in a local team. Usually before it was like a parent of a son or a daughter, and like they would kind of lead the sponsorships or fundraising efforts. But I can see it now being from a business standpoint. The only thing with that specifically from a soccer standpoint, it's like everything turns into a business. So what's the end goal on that standpoint? We have academy teams and academy systems and, players being sold and stuff like that. I'm not sure if it'll be able to get to that from a national global standpoint, but I do see like the corporate sponsor element coming into play. You will see like you said, like Every Kid Plays, like nonprofits coming to, helping the communities to provide like alternatives to pay to play. But, for an athlete that's trying to make it to the elite level, a weekly clinic is not going to, make the difference. Yeah, it's not going to provide the development you need. So what does it look like moving forward, for that elite athlete that both parents work, that can't you drive an hour to the best team that, has the college coaches come in, things like that. So it's going to be really interesting. It hurts when I come back like to Sacramento. I see, what's happening from a soccer standpoint. And the problem is that everyone has the answers and nobody has the answers at the same time. So it's kind of like everyone's just doing it and adjusting as they go. But hopefully we can come together and avoid these crazy fees, but at the same time figure out ways to develop talent.
Love it. Let's open up that room.
Yeah, so if anyone wants to come up, provide any insight, we spoke about Chandler Parsons suing Morgan Stanley for $5 million and what that means around